What's going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we're going to be talking about the Hydra clan boss. What I figured out from it so far, what you can possibly look forward to, as much insight as I can possibly give to all of you watching here today. So let's get into it, because this is exciting new content. Now, this was introduced with the most recent interview that Cirilla and Ash had on his channel, so if you haven't seen that, definitely go check it out for yourself. But we're here talking about, we were given the information of one of the heads of the Hydra. If you're not familiar with what a Hydra is, it is a multi-headed kind of dragon thing, beast, whatever you want to call it. And that's going to be the next iteration of the clan boss after the Demon Lord here. Alright, so most people, not that I'm assuming, but may have some basic understanding as to what this guy does already. I'm going to go over it very briefly, but I don't want to talk about this too much here because, once again, it's a multi-headed clan boss and boss overall. This is just one of the heads. They haven't revealed the other ones just yet. I'm expecting that we will get that information a little bit down the line. So one of the key takeaways I do want to talk about for this first head of Torment here is the fact that it can be decapitated. Now, outside of this, some information that people aren't currently thinking about is a picture we got a very long time ago, which is going to be this picture here. Now, is this to say this is going to stay the same? Possibly not, but this was the basic foundation for the Hydra clan boss when it was first introduced in 2019. So if they do follow this path right here, we are going to have 4 heads. They're all going to be killable, as you can see whenever this head is decapitated right here in the passive effect. So there is a way to destroy this head. Then you're gonna have a total health bar here. Now, either all 4 of these bars equal up to 100%, being 25% each, or it's going to be one giant health bar here with billions and billions of damage, and these heads are going to actively respawn on a set timer until the boss is completed. Now, there definitely is an alternate option here. There can be 4 total difficulty chests, and the equivalent of one head could be the equivalent of 1 chest. So killing all 4 heads would give you the top chest, and it's just going to end there. I really hope they don't do this, because it is a lot of fun to see who can do the most damage on this boss. But based on the fact it's 4 divided by percentages, of course, is 25%, so it would make sense if they did want to approach it that way, that 25% on each head here would give you the max total chest, and that would end the fight for you. So you're always getting top chest, and you know exactly when you are getting it, even though we have the damage counter that was added to the game quite a while ago now. So that was the main point I wanted to talk about on this picture here. Of course, we see 5 members here as well. So unless they change things, it does look like they're going to go with a typical setup of 5 champions once again to fight this Hydra boss. Now let's get into the details here, because I saw a lot of people saying, oh, poison's going to be useless. One thing I want to point out, and this isn't confirmed, this is just what I'm reading here. Everything we see on this screen for the head of Torment is going to be unique to this head. I have no reason to believe Almighty Spectre, Cursed Storm, and of course not Spectral Fangs is going to be the same across every single head. There might be a different variation of a passive here, but the reason why I'm jumping to this conclusion is because True Fear is in the A1, and it is also in this passive here, which is why I do believe it's going to be different. So what does that mean? What am I getting at here? I do think it's possible that decreasing the poison damage taken may be unique to only this head. Now you have to think about the champions we've had in the past, the champions we have in the future. They made a statement saying, get ready to use champions that have currently no visible use in this game. So what does that mean? The first thing that's going to jump out to you is going to be the Hex debuff. Hex debuff can be strong. It can provide you with one of the hardest hitting abilities in the game as far as area of effect goes, but the Hex debuff itself doesn't really do anything. It has to do with the champions who apply it, how they interact with the Hex. You can think of Ruel, you can think of Cleopteryx, you can also think of Thea the Tomb Angel, and I would assume more champions are going to be released along those lines that do synergize with Hex. So if we look at Cleopteryx here, the champion that we were all given here, we have an AoE Hex here on a 3-turn duration, and it can be booked all the way to 100% chance. It's unfortunate it needs booked, but it is what it is. We will take what we can get. Passive here doesn't doesn't really matter too much. We do have increased crit rate, block active skills. This doesn't affect the head that we can currently see here. Based on the kit, block active skills is one of the immunities it has, so we don't really care about that here. We have an A1 here, having a 30 up to a 50% chance of placing weaken on the target, the chance increasing to 50 or 70% if the target is under hex. Also placing the perfect veil buff on this champion if it kills an enemy under hex. I don't believe her A1 is going to be strong enough to be killing these heads here, but it does go to my next point, which I really want to kind of drive home here. So in my head, I kind of planned this out a certain way, assuming I'm going to understand how the future Hydra heads are going to work. Like I said before, if they do not keep these passives the same across the board, there are going to be clearly certain heads you want to get decapitated as quickly as possible. Now let's think about the most recent guaranteed champion. I'm going to go to him in the background just so we have him up and available here, and that is going to be Vizier Ovelis. What does this guy do? Increase the duration of debuffs, places block buff, attack down, heal reduction, debuff spread, perfect veil on this champion if the target's under 2 or more debuffs, which is very likely here, and also perfect veil at the start of each round for 2 turns. So a lot here is already screaming Hydra clan boss, even though we don't know too many details as to what's to come here. So with that being said, the idea I first had in my head is going to be Head of Torment needs to be killed as soon as possible with any means necessary. So what can that look like? Using someone like a Tomb Lord, using any type of poison champion, stacking defense down, weaken, attack down in a full poison bar on the Head of Torment here, then having Vizier, debuff spread, this boss applying it to every single other head, and getting some single target champions. The one that really stood out to me is going to be Inquisitor Shamail. So this champion, in my opinion, is going to be very strong just for this head. It's hard to say with the other heads because we don't have the information on it, but cleansers are going to be popular, but this guy instantly removes the debuff and fills the ally's turn meter by 15%. So the fact that this is instant, no one has to wait for a turn to passive cleansing of anything, especially as specific as Fear and True Fear, is going to be so strong. On top of that, I'm sure you guys have seen, maybe you haven't, videos I've done in the past, Cow of Horrors hits insanely hard. Now, the other thing we don't know about this champion or the Hydra is what is going to be the base defense statistics for the Hydra boss. If it's like the clan boss, it's not going to make a huge difference, the fact that it's ignoring defense based on the amount of buffs. However, it's going to be quite noticeable. So with all of these things wrapping up, Inquisitor Shamail, someone who offers poisons, defense down, weaken, as well as a debuff spread, like Vizier Ovelis, I think there's a lot of potential here as long as my premonition about the passives here all being different do stay true. If they don't stay true, honestly, I would be wrong, but I wouldn't be upset about it because I think there's been such a heavy poison meta for such a long time that it would be a breath of fresh air to have some content that isn't heavily reliant on full poisons, full HP burn. Really looking into something like raw damage really coming out on top here would shake things up for sure and be completely different than anything we've seen so far. So back to what I was talking about, fully debuff spreading so all the other heads get it, killing this champion, possibly getting rid of the decreased damage taken from poisons, and you can just go on from there. On top of that, another part of this passive here is decrease the damage all Hydra heads take from area of effect or AoE attacks by 10%. 10% isn't a lot of damage to be reduced, but it still is noticeable. On top of that, they have kind of shown us here that they're trying to scale back some of the damage that's based on enemy max health here. 10% can be a lot, but the fact that the target can be decapitated means that the health pool might not be as big as we think it is based on how many heads there are going to be. So enemy max health could still be a viable option here as well. Only time will tell. HP burn doing 20,000 health is rather low. However, reflect damage, War Master, Giant Slayer cannot exceed 50,000 per attack. If it is 50,000, that's still a lot of damage no matter how you look at it. It's very similar to what we currently have now. So I'm not sure if they were adding that just to add it to be as specific as possible in these tooltips, or if they were saying this is going to be the method. Raw damage and masteries are going to become the new meta for this and damage dealing. So there's really a lot to take away from this, even though we don't have all the information. Like I said, I do expect us to get information on more of the heads here, so we can kind of start wrapping our heads around the best way to approach this. Now, one major concern that I'm looking for from you guys is going to be, do you think this is going to be another paywall into this game? It was the first thing that came into my head when they said you're going to be using skills. They don't have a place in this game. That means people weren't pursuing champions like this. They weren't investing in champions like this. Is this a smart tactic and marketing thing from Plarium? 1000%, zero argument there. They see champions that are underused and underbuilt. They see potential for people to be spending resources and investing in them. They're giving us a reason to do that right now. On the player end, it might not be as well received. If you do have these champions sitting in your vault at level 50, at level 1, now you're going to have to reinvest in them, mastery them, book them perhaps, and it's going to cost if you don't have all of this saved up. It's really hard to save up nowadays with so many things like clan versus clan, all of these fusions happening, so on and so forth. So I do want your guys' feedback. I know it is going to be hard to tell because we only have one head available to us at this point here, but I'm curious as to your personal thoughts on, is this just going to be another kind of pay to win bridge? Listen, it's new content. I'm excited for it. Many people are excited for it. But you have to think about the 99% of people playing. How big of an effect is this going to have on them? Because even though Cleopteryx clearly is going to have some value here against this boss, if it is the way we all perceive it to be, and they did say, not directly, but they kind of implied that she's going to have a use down the line. I'm assuming this is what they did mean by down the line. The fact that we had Vizier on a guaranteed event is going to give a lot of people who did pursue this a much better entry to this boss if he does prove to be useful there. And I'm sure people have talked about Bommel to death by now, including myself, but Bommel was designed around bomb bosses and that had to be buffed at least twice. Yes, they are going to the right direction, but initially on release, they were still a bit underwhelming compared to all of the other strategies in play here. So hopefully Plarium learn from Bommel and bomb champions here, and we will see how this applies to what they did for their design team as far as the Hydra clan boss. So once again, leave a comment, give me your feedback. Do you think this is going to be another huge pay to win wall here? Hopefully this content is very difficult. I am going to hope for that. Some players might not be too happy about that, but I'm assuming there are going to be difficulties to this boss. And if anyone remembers, if you've been playing for this long, when they released Ultra Nightmare, it was taking on average 8 or 9 keys to get the top chest for Ultra Nightmare as soon as it came out. That is a lot of keys. Look at us now. We have Victor Test doing 700 million damage to Ultra Nightmare. So time will tell, testing will tell. That's going to be the real metric as far as how well we can do with Hydra. So if it does come out too hard, consider that a good thing, something to work to, and hopefully the rewards are going to be on par with the difficulty of this boss. In my head, this should be the hardest PvE content in the game. No contest here. I'm expecting most endgame players to not be able to kind of dent this in the hardest difficulty. When it does first come out here, that would be pretty ideal for the longevity of the game. If this does get cracked quickly, I think it's going to have some pretty bad long-term effects. There's going to be more burnout. People are going to say, okay, content comes out, we beat it very quickly, then what? This is why I wasn't too harsh about the difficulty of Bommel. I think a lot of endgame players really like that, and they're having a hard time keeping the retention of endgame players, which should definitely be somewhere on their list of what they want and what they don't want in this game. So those are my thoughts, those are my feedback. That's what I think about this boss. Let me know if you have any feedback of your own. As always, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.